I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, a truckers' rally could descend on Queen's Park this weekend.
Any protest in the area of Queen's Park absolutely cannot block off access to the hospitals.
My message to those truckers that may be coming to Toronto, please be respectful.
Toronto officials say they're taking steps to ensure what's happening in Ottawa doesn't happen here. Plus,
reality is that members of this freedom movement are average, peace-loving, and law-abiding citizens.
the Ottawa protesters claim they're being portrayed as racist and terrorists. They say they won't leave until the Prime Minister ends vaccine mandates. And
there has to be a significant investment in healthcare in order for us to move forward and be able to live with this new pathogen.
Ontario's top doctor says we need to learn to live with COVID, what experts say we need to do to make that happen. As the truckers' protest in Ottawa nears the 1 week mark, officials say a similar demonstration could be rolling into downtown Toronto this weekend. Lorenda Redekop joins us live now from Hospital Row. And Lorenda, protesters are already being warned not to block hospital access.
That's right, Dwight. This is the area that people are really worried about because this is where the big hospitals are located. And we have obtained an email from Mount Sinai to patients saying that all appointments, they're being moved to virtual visits as of tomorrow up until Monday. Plus another hospital in this area, not right along this strip, Women's College, they are canceling a clinic on Saturday. Now, protests happen all the time outside Queen's Park, especially on Saturdays. But usually we do not hear and see so many emails and news releases coming out days in advance.
Barricades around Queen's Park were beefed up this week in advance of this weekend at a building that always has security and fencing. This Instagram post calls Saturday's protest the Convoy for Freedom Toronto. Multiple meetup points ending at Queen's Park. The noisy protest in Ottawa is on to its 7th day. This post for Saturday tells people not to honk their horns around Sick Kids Hospital and leave a lane for emergency vehicles.
Any protest in the area of Queen's Park absolutely cannot block off access to the hospitals around the legislature.
This is medical tyranny.
A protest against pandemic measures last September targeted hospitals. Some patients had to be escorted by police to get through. And the area known as Hospital Row, just south of the legislature, is busy even without a protest. This morning, Premier Doug Ford was asked about this weekend's demonstration when he was interviewed on a Hamilton radio station.
I just hope it's always a peaceful protest. We live in a democracy. If people want to come down and protest, God bless them. I understand their frustration. I really do.
Earlier this week, the Premier said the Ottawa protesters had made their point and should go home. In that city, many residents are frustrated by the nonstop noise. Some businesses remain closed. This will be the first weekend bars and restaurants in Ontario can open indoors again.
As mayor, I, of course, cannot direct police enforcement. No elected official can or should. But I have made it clear to Chief Raymer that we must work together to do everything we can to avoid the kind of situation currently faced by Ottawa residents and businesses.
Now, Toronto Police, they've already put out information saying that they are planning for Saturday with this protest. And one of the organizations that's working with police, it's the University Health Network. It's told its employees to prepare if they are working this weekend and leave extra time as this area could be very packed. And also, one of the suggestions that was brought up with hospital employees was the idea not to wear their badges or hospital uniforms until they're in their building. But the University Health Network, they're going to continue working with police. Dwight, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lorenda. Now, police say the situation in Ottawa is somewhere between a demonstration and an occupation. Protest organizers held a news conference today to repeat they will not leave until COVID-19 mandates and restrictions are lifted. Ashley Burke now with the latest.
This restaurant worker turned counter-protester says he's fed up.
I want to go back to work. I want these people to protest properly. I don't even want them to go home. I want them to stop holding Ottawa hostage.
A message demonstrators surrounding him tried to drown out.
They're trying to disrupt this interview, obviously.
Police say they ramped up enforcement and issued tickets outside the downtown core for honking, driving with unsecured fuel cans, and driving the wrong way.
They're going to lose anyways. You see what's happening here right now is we're going to outnumber everybody. We're outnumbering the police, and at one point, when the Americans start doing it too.
Us alone are the biggest army now in Canada. We're bigger than the military in Canada.
So you're calling yourself an army now? Is that what you think?
No, we're calling us freedom fighters. The state of Texas is the biggest army in the world, the long gun owners.
Organizers insist this is a peaceful protest and they're not leaving until they get what they want.
We are therefore calling on all levels of government in Canada to end all COVID mandates and restrictions.
They've incorporated a not-for-profit to try and get GoFundMe to release $10 million in donations, now under review. But when asked about foreign money, they ended their press conference.
Glad to have you come out today.
The honorable leader of the opposition.
The newly elected leader of the official opposition, who has supported the trucker convoy all along, continued today.
We are talking about an impasse on Parliament Hill. We need to have some solution. There needs to be an olive branch. Where is that?
We tell our children that when they see a bully, even if that bully is their friend, their job is to speak out. It is our job, Mr. Speaker, as members of this House, to speak out against these hateful actions.
Meanwhile, people in Ottawa are living through another day of protests, with fears more demonstrators are on their way here this weekend. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Police in Ottawa have said that the size and nature of the protest means police measures might not be enough to bring it to an end. There have been suggestions that the military could be brought in to help, but officials admit that would come with serious risks. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says it's not currently part of the planning.
One has to be very, very cautious before deploying military in situations engaging Canadians. It is not something that anyone should enter in lightly. But as of now, there have been no requests, and that is not in the cards right now.
A 27-year-old man is dead after a collision in the westbound lanes of the Gardiner Expressway this morning. It happened near Royal York Road around 9:30 a.m. and police say a speeding vehicle collided with a flatbed truck. The driver of the car was pronounced dead on scene. The westbound lanes of the Gardiner were blocked for more than 5 hours. They have since reopened. We are learning more about the 14-year-old girl who was killed inside her Malton apartment building on Tuesday night. Tafash Riley moved to Canada with her family in 2012 from Jamaica. Neighbors are now rallying to support the family as they wait for more answers about her death. Morelli has the latest.
Inside the lobby of 7170 Darcel, a memorial of candles, teddy bears, and messages of love for Tafash Riley. The 14-year-old was found here Tuesday night with a gunshot wound. Paramedics tried to save her, but she died. On a GoFundMe page set up for Tafash Riley, a neighbor says her family came here several years ago from Jamaica, and they don't have family here in Canada. She says the family is her parents and a brother, and their wish is to bring their daughter home. It goes on to say, "My heart is broken, and my faith in humanity is at an all-time low, knowing someone could take a 14-year-old girl's life."
Peel Regional Police say the investigation is ongoing. It's still being considered a homicide, but no suspects have been arrested. They're appealing for more witnesses to come forward.
A 14-year-old student just in high school, just trying to live her life, and all of a sudden she just ends up getting killed.
People who live around here say the violence is making them uneasy, even afraid to go out. In September 2019, a neighboring building was the site of a horrifying mass shootout. More than 100 bullets were fired as children lined up at a nearby ice cream truck. 5 teens were injured and 1 killed. Grade 12 student Jonathan Davis, an innocent bystander.
It's sad. Can imagine if it was my own child.
Barry Solomon is the mother of 4 teenagers. She worries about their safety.
One is not safe. It could have been at the other building because it once happened there. It can happen to anyone.
Today, the flag remained at half-mast at Ascension of Our Lord Secondary School, where Tafash Riley studied. A somber reminder of the student who never came back to class. Farah Morali, CBC News, Mississauga.
Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie apologizing today for not doing more to intervene in a bizarre case of alleged workplace harassment at City Hall. Crombie says she wishes she did more to support former councillor Karen Raz, whose car was repeatedly vandalized in the City Hall parking lot. Ryan Patrick Jones has more.
I'm not sure if Karen is watching, but Karen, I'm truly sorry.
That's Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie apologizing today to her former colleague Karen Raz. Raz resigned from council last month in part because her concerns about alleged intimidation at the hands of another councillor went unanswered. Crombie knew about the incidents but conceded she didn't do enough.
I'm a woman in politics, and I've been on the receiving end of harassment myself. And as the leader of council, I should have done everything in my power to protect my friend and colleague.
Yesterday, CBC News revealed Karen Raz's vehicle was keyed 8 times over a 2-year period in a parking lot reserved for council members. Sources say fellow councillor Ron Starr was the suspect. Peel police looked into the allegations, but no charges were laid after Starr agreed to pay for the damage. Raz also reported the situation to the city's integrity commissioner, but he declined to investigate, saying it was a police matter. These municipal law experts say that may have been a mistake.
The wording in the Code of Conduct on the role of the police is not as clear as it could be. It says that the Integrity Commissioner should inform the complainant that this is a police matter and that they should take it up with the police. But it doesn't say that the Integrity Commissioner can't do his or her role in addition to that.
The Integrity Commissioner is obliged to refer that matter off to the proper authorities, wait for them to resolve it, and then may have jurisdiction after the fact to continue with the matter.
Crombie says she wants changes.
I'm going to take a roll call vote. Ward 1?
Yes.
So that has been moved unanimously.
Yesterday, Mississauga Council voted unanimously asking Integrity Commissioner Robert Swayze to open an investigation and for Starr to take a leave of absence. Councillor Pat Sato was among them.
We need to hold ourselves as we hold our staff. We would not allow our staff to get away with this.
Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
It was Manitoba MP Candice Bergen's first full day on the job as the Conservative Party's interim leader. Bergen was chosen by the caucus last night, hours after it pushed out Erin O'Toole in a majority vote. And as Hannah Thibodeau reports, day one at the helm has already been a controversial one for Bergen.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
A standing ovation from her colleagues on her first day as interim leader of the Conservative Party. Inside the House of Commons, Candice Bergen's first question in that role.
The trucks have been parked outside in Ottawa for almost a week now. Can the Prime Minister please tell Canadians what role he feels the government can play and what they can do to help solve the impasse?
I and all of our government clearly condemn the desecration of national monuments and the display of hateful symbols that this protest has tolerated.
Outside on the streets in front of the Parliament buildings, this continues. And the Ottawa mayor is livid with photographs like this. Conservatives, including the interim leader, taking snapshots alongside the protesters.
For the last 6 nights were kept up by horn honking, people throwing out racial slurs to people just walking down the street, grabbing people's masks off their faces, forcing small businesses to close. Completely disgraceful performance by these members of Parliament. They should apologize.
Conservative MPs Rosemary Falk and Kevin Waugh are in this photo.
I actually, as an elected member of Parliament, reject the assertion that elected officials shouldn't be meeting with, in my example, Saskatchewanians.
Why isn't this government on the street here in Wellington talking to these people? They're normal citizens. They just want to be heard.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau did have a call with the new interim leader today, but says he won't be negotiating with the demonstrators.
It's a time for responsible leadership. And I certainly hope that the Conservative Party, under its current direction, will put that responsibility first and foremost in the choice it makes and in how it encourages all Canadians to get through this pandemic.
The Conservatives continue to push the Trudeau government to offer an olive branch to the protesters to solve the impasse. But Trudeau continues to say that isn't going to happen. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, it seems the city has avoided some of the heavy snowfall that was expected overnight. A winter weather travel advisory continues to be in effect for Toronto. Some of the snow forecasted fell as rain instead. While that was a relief for city crews who've been out clearing the streets, the OPP is warning that road conditions may be wet and slick in some areas. At least one truck seen here near Highway 401 and here Ontario ended up in the ditch. Environment Canada advising drivers to exercise caution as visibility may be reduced at times. Not as much as we expected, Nick, but still pretty bad out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little slick, Dwight, and a lot of the snowfall that we saw came down as sort of that wet, heavy snowfall. We just didn't see the transition happen as quickly. That being said, I mean, I was seeing reports anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters, 10 being on the high end for last night's event, but the whole system still continuing to bring snowfall to the GTA right now. We've actually still got advisories in effect for the GTA for an additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. Still looking at winter storm warnings down around the Niagara region and a couple of snowfall warnings as well. So some areas getting hit harder than others. Hamilton down through Niagara, certainly the worst of it. There's a look at the big picture, and we're just on the northern edge of this, but we have seen some snowfall accumulating across the GTA within about the last hour or two. Now that's going to continue through the evening period tonight and into the overnight for some areas. It sort of clears out by tomorrow morning, then some cloud cover and the risk of a few flurries, especially down around Niagara. Saturday, though, looking a little better. All told, it is coming with some pretty cold weather, though. -9 degrees right now with the winds. It feels like -18 in the city of Toronto. Heading through tonight, about 3 to 6 centimeters of snow in general. -12 is an overnight low. Wind chills down to -18. You'll wake up to that tomorrow. And then tomorrow, high of just -9. I will tell you if there's any relief in the forecast, temperature-wise, coming up in just a bit.
We need some. Doctor was asked repeatedly today about comments he made around learning to live with COVID-19. Dr. Karen Raz says, as a society, the discussion on how to proceed should happen soon. Del Manukduk explores how living with the virus will look very different for certain sectors and people.
I've been humbled by this virus too many times. We're in wave 5 now.
Humbled yet optimistic. That was the message from Ontario's top doctor as he forecasted the easing of public health measures.
Of all the measures, I think the masking will be the last to go. We'll certainly have to review the proof of vaccination. I think it's common sense on hand hygiene and distancing.
And the easing of public health measures goes hand in hand with the Omicron variant, which has led to record infections, but also because the risk of transmission between an unvaccinated person and a person with 2 doses of vaccine is negligible.
We're finding that immunity isn't really possible, whether we're talking about having had a previous infection or whether we're talking about vaccine. A long-lasting immunity doesn't necessarily seem to be in the cards.
However, Dr. Moore says a soon-to-be-published study shows 3 doses provides 95% protection against severe outcomes, which is important for hospitals still under strain. Hamilton Health Sciences is operating at upwards of 120% of funded occupancy.
So that means opening up beds in sort of unconventional spaces, in spaces where we would have run down services.
So in order for hospitals to live with COVID, they need more staff and more investment.
We just don't have the capacity to deal with, the incremental amount of care we've got to provide with COVID, along with everything else we need to do, plus catch up and recover from the past 2 years. It's just too much.
When it comes to everyday people, Dr. Moore acknowledged that getting back to whatever normal is and decreasing fear will take time. Laura Kavanagh is a behavioral scientist at Seneca College.
So I think it's reasonable to expect that even if someone is welcoming it, they may still be feeling quite a bit of fear. And I think it's important to recognize that having mixed feelings is it's normal.
She says people will have to assess their own risk tolerance as public health measures ease, but will be challenging for some who have been conditioned over the last 2 years.
Our behavior is very adaptable, which is good because we can get used to almost any situation. But the downside of that is that, even when we're in a bad situation, we don't necessarily want to go out of it.
Dr. Moore says people may have to get an annual COVID-19 vaccine for several years to maintain immunity. Del Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto District School Board trustees have unanimously voted to buy level 3 medical grade masks for all students. The board has planned to provide one per student each day, but students will still be able to use their own masks if they wish. TDSB spokesperson Ryan Bird says the cost could be as high as $2 million.
We don't yet know the uptake for students using these masks. While they are optional, obviously if they are using one per day and all students are doing that, we're going to be closer to the 2 million mark. But if students who are comfortable with their own masks don't want to wear one of these and the uptake is lower, and then we could be closer to the 440,000 mark.
The money will come out of the board's reserve funds as the Ministry of Education is not funding the purchase. Bird says it isn't yet known when the masks will arrive for use in classrooms. The Premier meeting face-to-face today with the Ontario Nurses Association to discuss a shortage of frontline healthcare staff.
Unfortunately, he made no commitments on repealing Bill 124, and we are very disappointed about that.
Bill 124 caps wage increases of provincial employees such as nurses. Nurses say the bill, along with job stress during the pandemic, are a big part of why so many are leaving the profession. The ONA says the Premier agreed to meet with them again next week. The Ford government issuing a statement after the meeting saying it wants to work with nurses. The provincial government has announced its plan to develop a portable benefits program that would provide dental, eye, and pharmaceutical coverage to millions of Ontarians who don't have it. Natalie Kalada explains.
Amanda Monday runs a shared workspace and daycare. She knows the struggle of living without benefits.
Which means that you often skip dentist appointments, you skip checkups. You can't take your kids for regular cleanings. You often wear glasses that are broken. You might have to make some decisions around which medications that you use because paying out of pocket for those things is very expensive.
Right now, less than a quarter of those who work part-time or in precarious jobs have benefits.
Today, the government announced it intends to develop a portable benefits system for workers who don't have a health, dental, or vision plan, covering workers in the gig economy, retail, and hospitality industries.
We will be designing a portable benefit strategy for Ontario that ties health and dental insurance to workers, not their employers.
Usually, if we think about the precarious gig workers, they're also racialized newcomers, often persons with disabilities or other barriers.
Sukyur says portable benefits have a lot of promise, but prefers to see the program administered by an arm's-length organization that collects contributions from both employers and workers, regardless of who they're working for.
With portable benefits, at least some of the models, you essentially accumulate credits that then result in you having access to benefits based on how much you work, not who you work for.
Crucial details of the plan, how much it will cost, how it will be funded, and who will oversee it still need to be figured out. The government plans to appoint an advisory panel in March, with its recommendations announced in July, after the provincial election.
So what I really hope is that if this provincial government is saying that this program is going to roll out, that they don't use it as an election carrot. What starts to make me really angry is when they get the hopes up of families and low-income workers who can't have their hopes lifted and then be disappointed.
Ontarians head to the polls June 2nd. Natalie Kalada, CBC News, Toronto.
Ongoing controversy from the tennis world was in the spotlight at the International Olympic Committee's first news conference at the Beijing Games. IOC President Thomas Bach says he plans to keep a promise to meet with Chinese tennis champion Peng Shuai. She's the Chinese tennis star who accused a senior communist official of sexual assault, then largely disappeared from public life. Anthony Germain reports from Beijing.
tennis, a summer sport, actually dominated his first news conference of these winter games. Bach announced that he's going to keep a promise to meet with Peng Shuai. She's the champion tennis player who vanished last November after making some very serious allegations online about being sexually assaulted by a senior Communist Party official. After that, Bach held a video call to try to determine exactly what happened, to clarify that, and he did say afterwards that he was going to meet with her during these games.
Will you be meeting her during the Olympics? Thank you.
The answer is yes. We will have the meeting. I'm very happy and also grateful to Peng Shuai that she will enter in order to have this meeting because she also wanted to have this.
Now, COVID regulations stipulate that anybody who actually enters into this zone for these games has to stay here. And that's a possible indicator that this meeting is going to happen towards the end, because once she enters, she can't leave. Now, when Peng's bizarre exile ended, she resurfaced and she tried to claim that nothing had happened, that it was all a misunderstanding. But women's groups, the Women's Tennis Association, they suspect there was coercion and they wanted some answers. And Bach and the IOC were pressed and criticized for actually not doing more to try to get China to explain what happened.
She wants to have their inquiry. Of course, we would also, support her in this, but it must be her decision. It's her life. It's her allegations.
Now, as much as Bach and the IOC like to say that the Olympics is no place for politics, the entire mystery surrounding Peng is just laced with politics. This is not going to go away, and what's happened now is effectively a meeting with a tennis player has become one of the most anticipated events of these games. Anthony Germain, CBC News, Beijing.
The leader of ISIS has been killed in northwestern Syria. It happened during a raid by U.S. Special Forces. The death is seen as a major blow to the extremist organization, which has been trying to reassert itself in Syria and Iraq. Magda Graber-Selassie has the details.
This horrible terrorist leader is no more.
President Joe Biden giving an update on the raid that put an end to the leader of ISIS, Haji Abdullah, also known as Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi. It all went down in the early hours of this morning in northwestern Syria. This man was a witness and said he heard the gunfire. Video of the aftermath shows bodies being removed from the rubble. An emergency response group, the White Helmets, said at least 13 civilians were killed, many of them children. U.S. officials say at least 3 innocent lives were lost. And President Biden said the target of the raid was to blame.
But we do know that as our troops approached to capture the terrorist, in a final act of desperate cowardness, he, with no regard to the lives of his own family or others in the building, he chose to blow himself up, not just to the vest, but to blow up that 3rd floor.
Killing himself, his wife, and 2 children. The Pentagon's press secretary, John Kirby, said that an ISIS lieutenant and his wife fired on the unit as well and were killed, as well as possibly another child. And Kirby said there was another deadly exchange with a group he called hostile.
We know that in that engagement, 2 of them were killed, and that resulted in the end of that hostile activity. The remaining individuals left the site.
Officials say this was a raid that was months in the making and that the ISIS leader was a threat to the world. President Biden said the now deceased leader was a driving force in the genocide of the Yazidi people. He also said he was responsible for a recent attack on a Syrian prison, an attack that resulted in the deaths of more than 100 people. Magda Graber-Selassie, CBC News, Washington.
A teenager from BC has been killed in London, England. 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth traveled to the UK to meet a man she met online. Thomas Daigle has more on the case and an arrest.
23-year-old Jack Seppel was formally charged with murder today in Colchester, England, in connection with the killing on Tuesday in Essex, England, of 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth of Vernon, British Columbia. Prosecutors said the two had met online, and Ashley Wadsworth's Facebook profile suggested that in November she traveled to England to be with Seppel. One friend on Facebook even suggested that Ashley Wadsworth had intended to fly back to Canada as early as today, but police say they responded to what they described as a disturbance on Tuesday afternoon at Seppel's home in Chelmsford, England. That's where police found the victim. Paramedics responded as well, tried to revive her, but Wadsworth was pronounced dead at the scene. Her stepmother spoke to CBC from British Columbia.
You're just remembering how strong and smart and witty Ashley was, and how kind she was, and how she was always 10 steps ahead of all of us. And she'll be dearly missed by each and every one of us.
Throughout the day, neighbors came to lay flowers and leave messages in memory of Ashley, who they met over the past couple of months.
Just wanting to respect the girl, because it's just heartbreaking. As you can see, the state I'm in now, it just hurts, you know what I mean? Of how young that girl was. She had a whole life ahead of her.
Ashley was such a lovely girl, and it's such a waste. Such a waste. She was so polite. And it's usually very quiet around here. It's usually, we're all very close. We're all quite a tight-knit community. But she didn't deserve.
The accused, Jack Seppel, remains in custody. Police have not said if he used a weapon or given any details about their investigation today. He is expected back in court tomorrow. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Colchester, England.
Another COVID-19 vaccine has been approved for use in the UK. The UK's health and medicine regulator approving the use of Novavax for those 18 and older. It's the 5th vaccine that's been given the green light by UK officials. Novavax is a protein subunit vaccine. It uses technology that has been used in the past to develop vaccines against HPV, hepatitis B, and influenza. Novavax completed a submission to Health Canada for authorization last November. It remains under review. So some of that rain stayed rain, and we got less snow, but it's the cold we also have to worry about, too.
Yeah, now we're settling in for the cold, Dwight, and we're not quite done with the snow yet. In fact, as the temperatures have dropped, the snow that's falling, a lot of it is actually accumulating now. So we'll see a few more centimeters of snow as we head through the evening hours tonight, and tapering off through sort of the later evening and early overnight period. We still have a weather advisory in effect for the GTA, this for an additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow, but mind you, this was issued a few hours ago. So, you know, I mean, again, we're looking at a couple centimeters of snow more in some areas, especially down toward Burlington, Hamilton, and then down through St. Catharines. That's where sort of the heaviest amounts of snow are still going to fall in the poorest of driving conditions. We're right on the northern edge of this system, or at least the GTA is. As we move through tomorrow morning, look for this to taper off. Still some flurries tonight. Tomorrow we might see a few flurries, but generally speaking, we're on the tail end of it by the morning commute. And generally just cloudy skies tomorrow. I mean, again, the risk of a few light flurries here and there, but any accumulating snow will come to an end through tonight. And then by Saturday, we've actually got some good sunshine. However, it will come with some colder weather as well. That sunshine continues into Saturday evening. And Sunday's looking pretty good if you're looking for a bit of a warm-up. That seems to be sort of the best of the weekend days. There's a look at the forecast accumulations. Again, not much to speak of. That 8, by the way, comes with some earlier accumulations. So again, another 2 to 5 centimeters of snow is possible. Minus 13 is what we're looking at tonight, minus 12 in Toronto. With the winds, though, it's going to feel like minus 18. As we move through tomorrow, again, highs to about minus 9. Cloud cover, a few hints of sunshine, especially toward the later part of the day. But the wind chill will still be a bit of a factor. Now, the winds are going to come down, but that being said, doesn't take much when you're at minus 9. So the wind chill is minus 13. Saturday looks pretty good. Wind chill of minus 12, though. And Sunday, sort of the best of the days in the weekend as we get to minus 3, which is a little closer to seasonal. Dwight.
Thank you, Nick. After teeing up big changes to city-run golf courses, Council has voted to keep things on par. City Council had considered a review to use some of the space for non-golf activities like nature walks and movie nights as Toronto struggles with rising maintenance costs and declining interest in the sport. The report also recommended that Dentonia Park, the smallest and least used of the city's 5 public golf courses, be cut from 18 holes to 9. Council voted today to keep things status quo, but one councillor says it's a missed opportunity.
I think what happens is we're often very nervous about conflict, where we don't want to have communities pitted against each other, and you know, came up with a report that really took, in my view, too narrow a look at what our options were and tried to really contain this conversation. And so we didn't look at how other cities are finding ways to turn profits with their golf courses.
Meanwhile, Toronto City Council has given the green light for garden suites to be built across the city. Toronto defines garden suite as a housing unit usually located in the backyard of an existing house, but detached from the main house. The city says by allowing residents to build those suites on residential properties, it can increase the supply and type of housing available in Toronto. The Dawes Road Library in the city's East End is being renovated to focus on Indigenous values. The building is being constructed in consultation with Indigenous stakeholders and will include a kitchen, a community garden, and a youth drop-in center. Take a look.
Toronto Public Library brought the climate challenge and truth and reconciliation and social justice together in the program for this library. It's not a big building, but a very unique and important piece of city building and culture building in this part of the city.
Been a project that's been a long time in the works. Just trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this library? We're putting in a digital innovation space. And then because it's such a high population of kids in the neighborhood, we're going to have an early literacy center in there as well. And Dawes Road, through the old census, was identified as one of our branches that has a high population of self-identified Indigenous community members. So one of the strategies that was identified by the library, and really libraries across Canada, was really to work at Indigenous placemaking and engagement. This is the perfect branch because of the population, because of its proximity to the Don Valley and Taylor Creek. This is going to be our first one.
TPL made the really inspiring call to invite spaces into this new library to accommodate Indigenous knowledge sharing. And I think while making a space that's inviting and inspiring for all cultures, having it rooted in that deep sense of place, the Indigenous perspectives and principles that have been integrated into the library design is really wonderful to see.
That is a cool looking library. Buckle up, drivers. Gas prices in Ontario soared to yet another record setting high today with no sign of slowing down. The cost rising another cent today in Toronto, the GTA, Hamilton and Kitchener to 154.9 cents a litre is not looking much better for the province's other major cities. We saw a price around 153.9 per litre, but it doesn't stop there. Gas price analyst Dan Meteg says pump prices are expected to inch up even further tomorrow. All right, as we head to break, let's take a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX down 268 points. The Dow also down, 518, and our dollar trading at 78.87 cents US. Stay with us. We'll be right back. When twin brothers Wack and Mo moved to Mississauga from Nigeria, they had no idea that incredible journey here would await them. The two were interested in fashion and started experimenting with photo shoots. Fast forward 7 years, and the twins have signed with one of the country's top modeling agencies and now appear on a 21-meter billboard in downtown Toronto. We spoke to them about facing rejections before gaining recognition.
Man, I don't know. Coming from where we come from, to coming to Canada, seeing the opportunities, to be like, I want to be a part of the opportunity and actually getting to be a part and playing with like the top players. It is the most insane. I'm still living in a dream.
Hi, I'm Wack.
Hi, I'm Mo. And we're from Nigeria.
And this is our journey in Canada. We arrived in May of 2015.
I remember we were like excited that we're going to Canada.
It was cold. It was cold. Coming from Nigeria where everyone looks like you, everyone is like the same, but then moving here and then certain kids make it a point to make you know that you're different.
People make fun of your accent, the constant African jokes. I remember us like trying to like change the way we sounded. Until we just accepted that this is who we are. And if they make the jokes, they make the jokes. The moment we accepted it, this is just what it is, and there's nothing we could do to change it, this is just who we are, that is when they're like, oh, you guys are cool. In grade 10, my cousin got a camera for her birthday, and we would go and just shoot these silly little photos that were fun to like shoot, and we post them on our
ending of 2016, 2017, we moved to Hamilton. What we used to do, taking photos or studying and researching about fashion, was the only thing that kept us going. So then you would just sit down, read up on all these things and learn more about the craft. So in 2017, when local photographers started reaching out that they wanted to shoot us, we were like, this can be a thing, and we went to a couple agencies in Toronto at the time. We went to like 4 offices that day. I remember coming out from the first one.
Constant news. Oh.
So we're defeated for that day. If you could keep doing it and because practice, the more you do it, the more you get better at it. Practice makes perfect.
I would say you pick that up from my mom, doing so many things and just things would fail, but she would keep going. And I feel like just seeing that, you pick, as a kid, you just pick up on that. We like kind of broke into the Toronto like youth cultures. The people that were interested in fashion in Toronto that were young kind of knew us from like this runway we did. And we got reached out by this guy that runs this platform called Sunday School, and we shot something for him, and that ended up on Vogue Italia. That day was crazy.
And it was so beautiful that that was the first one at that level, because I remember the story was on different African countries and we're dressed in full Nigerian like attire. We decided to put up an art show called Self-Obsessed in 2019. And the idea for the art show was basically we get a room and we fill this room with photos that we've done since 2015, since we moved to Canada. So the idea was kind of to inspire people, self-obsessed, that if you believe in yourself and your ideas, your true authentic self enough, then you could do anything.
We come into 2020 and that's when the pandemic hit.
But we kind of didn't see it moving. The photographer posted the behind the scenes from the shoot, and then an agent reached out. I remember the day.
September
so
24th.
Clearly, September 24th, 2020. I remember the day going up to the billboard, going there to see a 70-feet photo of my face.
Seeing it that size is still like,
I think to me,
mind-boggling. One of the photos from that shoot is at the AGO.
It's at the AGO also. We're always into music, art, drawing. Like, this was just stuff that was natural and fun to us, and really thankful to my parents for like letting us be just able to explore.
The whole family's back.
My whole family's back.
One of their moms was like, oh, like she wants to do like photography now. Like the other one is like, oh, like
she wants to be like into like art.
And I feel like with us, we have kind of broadened the perspective where it's just like
this is possible.
Because we were there with them, so they're like, oh, like if
they're doing it, then we're doing it too. So it's very beautiful.
And to me, that's I've won.
I feel like we're going to be hearing more from those two. For more stories on Black History Month, you can head to our website. That's at cbc.ca, Being Black in Canada. Stay with us. We'll be another win, another step closer to the World Cup as Canada's men's soccer team continues its magical run.
Here's Laren. He's taken down. He stumbles. Stays up. Plays it across. David! Is it in? It is the most unusual goal you'll ever see.
Yeah, I've watched this I can't figure out how that ball went in the net. It doesn't matter how it goes in as long as it does, right? The team continues to find ways of getting the job done, remaining undefeated and sitting comfortably atop their CONCACAF qualifying group after defeating El Salvador 2-0 last night. The goal of getting to the World Cup in Qatar this November is within reach, but it's still too early for the team and its growing legion of fans to celebrate. Canada's next shot at locking up a World Cup spot won't come until next month. But we are confident that we are going to the World Cup, Nick. You heard it here first.
Unfortunately, I've only been able to catch the highlights, but that was the most amazing goal I've ever seen. Anyway, when we're talking about heading out tonight, if you are, take care. We've got some snowfall still falling across the GTA, another couple centimeters in play. It just kind of stretches across the downtown core up to about the 401. It clears out by tomorrow morning. And then after that, it's just the cold weather that we're contending with. -9 right now, down to -12 through the overnight period. Watch for those wind chills.
Yeah, but it's going to be a cold one. That's our show. Thank you, Nick. That's our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Stay safe and warm. Have a great night out there, everybody.